Microphone check 1 2, testing 1 2 3. Can you guys hear me okay? Well, if you can, I hope you can. Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I am your host, Patrick Vallejos, coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. Today we are talking about the Abby and Libby case out of Delphi. Once again, this has got to be the strangest case ever. I used to think it was because I had it under a microscope, but now I'm convinced. Absolutely the weirdest, ever changing, flip flopping case I've ever seen. What's up, Brad, from outside of the grid? You've been staying busy. What's the story on that old barn? That thing looks nice. The wife wants to build that on the land. Yeah, we're going to be off grid in probably about 6 years. Slowly working towards it. But yeah, that barn is beautiful. If you guys want to call in, hit the link. No worries. Otherwise, we'll just hang out in the chat. I did put a poll up, and it's very strange that we're back to this question again. Was Richard Allen a lone wolf? Like, when are we ever going to know the answer to that question? Or when will we be convinced one way or the other? Hey, what's up, Brett? What you up to, man? Good to see you. What's up, Fiend? Beth? Good morning to you. Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that. Rescue? Good morning. Melissa? I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. My guy Phil, what up? Molly, hello. Wanda, shout out to Missouri. What's up, V? Yankee, see you. Looks like we got a call. Somebody calling in and joining us here. Fiend, what's up?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Not much. Just got finished making my breakfast, enjoying my coffee, and I figured I'd go live and see what's up with everybody.
Yeah, it's early for you. I'm doing the same thing. Having coffee.
Yep. What's on your mind?
I guess just wanted to pick your brain on any follow-up thoughts on your Westfall interview.
I think the things that stood out to me was his familiarity with the creek. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
But also I have to control my impulses when I hear stuff like that, like why wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable that people are familiar with that area. Like, I'm familiar with it just from being there a couple times.
He genuinely seemed shocked about the information about Brad Holder.
Some of the stuff, yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of people wouldn't follow stuff anywhere close to the amount a lot of us follow things.
And I have I have Patrick further away from the case, and for some reason I have Brad a little bit closer now.
Oh, really? You think so?
Hmm. Well,
I
I can't get rid of him, but and you hope that law enforcement checked his alibi and did this and did that, but they don't have the best track record.
I agree completely, and I think that the defense team has tried to like emphasize that they didn't thoroughly vet his alibi, and yeah, that would be the bare minimum sort of thing you would hope that law enforcement would do is just get one single person that had eyes on him during the time. Like you don't talk to people and ask for their alibi and tape record their interviews and follow up with them for another interview and take his son's phone if there's not some level of like if there's not some level of that you've got some concern on this avenue of
Well,
investigation.
they're taking everybody's phone. They took
Well, we don't know that they took Brad Holder's phone ever. They're saying the prosecution is saying they didn't.
yeah, maybe they didn't.
That would be weird if there's if
But he's not a
you're
suspect, so
you're saying they're taking everybody's phone.
yeah, but he's not a suspect, so who
Well,
cares?
you don't need an alibi if you're not a suspect.
Exactly. So what about his defense needs to focus on their client's alibi, not
Right.
Brad's.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand. I wouldn't pretend to understand that. I don't know if there basically is no alibi for Richard Allen, like where he
Yeah,
went.
they need to focus on that. Let's start there.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I get where like people are coming from as far as like what's exculpatory and like, I mean, but from a bigger picture of the question was Richard Allen a lone wolf? Um, you know, Richard Allen being involved doesn't exclude that somebody else was involved, which that should be of concern to everybody.
I feel like that's just part of the case. I've said it from the beginning that the whole Odinism thing is just a cover for what is going to be a confession. It's his way to ease into it.
Well, can you expand upon that? Like,
Well,
what do
they're
you mean?
easing into it now. They're doing it right now. We're watching it in real time.
Was to see if he'll implicate somebody else.
No, this is all Richard Allen's. He's orchestrating all of this. When he's ready, he'll confess, but he's using the defense attorneys to kind of ease him in and kind of see when and how and where he confesses, and he's using them to help with the timing of it all. But he might even be doing a slow implication of somebody else, people that helped, maybe in a slow manner, making sure his wife sold the house. She's out of the area. She's safe now. Maybe I can get off. Maybe not. He's waiting for the right time, but yeah, he's waiting. If there are others involved, I think this whole Odinism thing was just his way of easing into it.
I mean, do you think it's actually there, or you think it's not there? You think there's no indication of like Odinist signatures?
Well, there might be, and if there is, it's because Richard Allen left them there, or he knows why they were left there, and he's bringing it up. He's doing a slow leak of that information. Remember, he is the crime scene expert when it comes to Delphi. If he was there, if he's the killer,
Right.
nobody has more information than him. So he's going to be able to develop all kinds of different strategies that we're not even aware of, angles that we won't even know about until they come up in trial. So he has the upper hand, especially if he's trying to lead us in a certain direction.
Yeah, I would consider that.
I think the question is why? Is he trying to tell us something? That the person who helped him is into Odinism? I don't know. Is he trying to blame it on somebody? Because if it was Richard Allen, he planned this shit out. He pre-planned it well. It wasn't premeditated. He pre-planned it. I'm talking for months. So I think if he did do something like that, he would know about a Brad Holder, I think, and a Logan Holder and their connection to his targets.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely possible. Like the somebody is, you know, framing, basically, for lack of a better word, but implicating, has familiarity with the local Odinist and is trying to, point the blame in their direction from the beginning.
Or he just has such knowledge of the crime scene that after watching social media, watching some of the directions, maybe we gave him some of those ideas. And with his knowledge of the crime scene and knowing what he did with those sticks, maybe he put two and two together over the 6.5 years. Like, well, those could be runes. I left those sticks that way. I know exactly what it looks like down there. He may have even documented it. So he would be able to come up with this strategy. And his defense team, they're just there to represent him. So whether people want to believe it or not, he's behind the scenes saying yes, no, yeah, I want to go that direction. No, I'm not comfortable with that. He's the one that's quarterbacking it.
I mean, I just don't know enough to really completely buy that. It's totally possible. In a lot of cases, yes, that's how it would normally work. The client does sign off on things. I'm not sure.
And I'm not saying blatantly. I'm not saying he's blatantly laying out the blueprints on the table and saying, Brad and Randy, look, we're going to do this. Here's our next play. They're eager to have something to kind of buy into. You know what I mean? So if he creates it for them and he says, I'm innocent and this happened to me with these prison guards, they're very eager to jump on that because now they have something.
Well, there's a surprising amount of something, like wherever they're going with this stuff. Like a lot of the times you would think, hey, that sounds like total bullshit, and sure enough, there's the prison guards with their patches. Like it's a real thing. Like they've got the receipts for it. Like a
It's
lot of
real in what way? Where nobody's saying it's not real. I
right. I'm
mean,
just saying, like
neo Nazis are a real thing too.
right. No, and they're
MS-13, that's a
violent
real
people.
thing.
Yeah.
Violent biker gangs, that shit's real.
Yes, all that stuff is real. I think that's important to consider. The environment that definitely existed.
The question is, was it in Delphi? Was it at the trails that day? Did that have anything to do with the
It was
murders
in
of Abby
Delphi.
and Libby?
I mean, it's not brought up a lot, but there's a weird case where the there was a kidnapping and beating of some guy.
Yeah, the Wolfpack.
That happened, like, very shortly before these crimes, and two of the defendants in that case were actually had their pretrial hearings that morning, February 13th, 9 a.m.
So did B. Phillips.
And one of them was the nephew of the judge.
Yeah, B. Phillips had a case that day, 213. He was scheduled to be
Well,
court was scheduled for 9. Huh?
That's not even the one I'm referring to.
That's what I'm saying. You're saying these guys had a trial or were scheduled to be in Delphi that day for court. I'm telling you that another person named B. Phillips, who is part of another murder that took place in that general area, also had court that day.
I will have to look into that because I don't think I've gone down that rabbit hole at all. Yeah, I'm talking about Fouts.
Yeah, that was his judge too, and he canceled. So he was
Well,
not
yeah,
only did he have a trial date that day, it was canceled. So now he's free to do whatever.
well, I mean, yeah. So, but he was involved in these other defendants' case as well. There's a lot of people that are like in place at the time that, like, I would have liked. I mean, I don't have a lot of trust that the investigation was very thorough, and I would say that doubly, if it's the fact that Richard Allen is involved. If
I don't
Richard
not
Allen is
only
involved,
not only
like
do I think it wasn't thorough, I think that they may have kind of pushed people out. Even ISP, I think they kind of kept them at arm's length.
I mean, I have a hard time looking at it to think if Richard Allen is implicated in this, were they specifically protecting him? were they not getting to him for some reason? I
Well,
can't imagine what the reason is, but like, was that something that they did not want to solve it?
a possibility that I brought up early on was that they knew who he was, but because Richard Allen was such a proactive person coming forward, kind of explaining away any of the strangeness, so they he left nothing for a judge to approve probable cause. There's nothing here. Well, did you speak to Richard Allen about why he was on the trail? Yeah, he was just walking. Okay. Well, the three girls that you talked to, did they see him? Yeah. Did he see them? Yes. Okay, well, what do we have? Nothing. Because Richard Allen is obviously, if he's the killer, extremely smart, smart enough to know he needs to come forward, explain that so that they're not knocking on his door, but instead he's knocking on theirs. And that's what bought him the 6 years. And they were looking at him this entire time. They may have been doing different strategies. I'm not sure. Putting Keegan Klein out there for the FBI to kind of monitor to see if he communicates back with Richard Allen, possibly. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I would entertain that. You know, I think that there's like, it's a weird thing. Like, sometimes people are saying the probable cause is so good, and then we're saying the probable cause is bad. But we've got like these like conflicting like witness statements. Like, the witnesses don't really match up to describing him. That's one of my huge problems with this. Like, and there doesn't have to be any probable cause for him to actually be the guy. Like, none of it has to make any sense. Like, nobody has to see anybody. Like, nobody has to see Bridge Guy. Nobody has to see Richard
Circumstantial,
Allen.
yeah.
Like, it could still be him. It doesn't mean that like there can be zero evidence and somebody could still do something. You know.
So you don't think they have any evidence?
I'm concerned that we're not aware of some evidence like that really is a good grounding.
Well, if there are pieces of evidence that do exist, you're not going to hear about it from the defense team if it's damaging to Richard Allen, and you're not going to hear about it from the prosecutor because he's waiting for trial.
Not in all circumstances, and yeah, this is kind of one of the points that I routinely make, is that you've got a lot of public division and questioning on this case, and that's not the fault of anybody except the state. Like, they are totally free to put some, not all the evidence, but like
But why would they?
a really good piece of evidence in their PCA, just to lock it down and convince the public, and then you don't have the division. So
No, they're not defense attorneys, though. They're not. That's not how they operate. They need the PCA so that they can get their search, and then from there on, everything else is hush hush until the trial.
well, I mean, the search happened before the PCA, but um yeah, no, I mean, I can see that, but but they invite a lot of the scrutiny, both the public division, a lot of people that don't believe that he's the right guy. They also invite a lot of like legal scrutiny. Like, you don't have all these Frank's motions um, if you buttoned up your stuff on the front end. Like, if you got it on lockdown, like, here's the solid
Well, I think
PCA,
they were forced
here's a
into
solid
it.
search warrant. Like, you've got zero chance of like really pushing the Frank's angle.
Well, my only question is why, in the Frank's memo, there's not one mention of an alibi for Richard Allen.
Well, I mean, that's sort of that's not the purpose of Frank's. Like, I get that they may have used it for multiple purposes, but
Well, the purpose of the Franks is to diminish the probable cause. That's its
for
purpose.
the search warrant specifically.
Yes. So
Were there any excluded? Was there
an
excluded
alibi would be a
information?
hell
But
would be a hell of a tool for that.
yeah, but that has to be something that law enforcement would know before they did the search. So if they didn't know Richard Allen's alibi, it's totally irrelevant to a Frank's.
Yeah, but they mentioned Westfall's alibi. They mentioned Brad Holder's alibi. They mentioned Elvis Field's alibi. Why did they mention all those alibis?
Because these were lines of investigation and things that law enforcement did know before serving that warrant. And it is like, it's impactful whether or not the judge was aware of this stuff. Because if he wasn't aware, that's where you would get grounding to have a Frank's hearing and see whether the warrant is actually
Yeah, I'll buy
founded.
that.
The other part of that, though, like the flip side that the defense team doesn't really emphasize at all, is that there were lots of warrants in this case, and you don't have to include anything like in your
You need just enough.
affidavit for warrant if the judge is already aware of it from previous warrants, or like it's stuff that he's already aware of. You don't have to include it every single time. So it's totally possible that the Diener knew all about Brad Holder and Patrick Westfall prior to signing that warrant. That would invalidate the whole Frank's like argument. But we don't know whether he did or not. Yeah, I would assume that he maybe didn't, because they really push.
Well, Diener had a long relationship with Derek German.
Yeah, that kind of that by itself would be problematic. I don't know. I didn't know that, and I don't know that, but that's also problematic for that to be the person that's signing off on warrants.
Yeah, he was the judge in all of his cases.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would probably make sense. Wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure I have seen that then.
I don't know if that's grounds for recusal, but that could be a reason.
It probably is grounds for recusal. Like that's certainly a conflict to. I mean, it depends on what the relationship is. If the relationship is just that he was a judge in his cases, that's not like grounds. That's not a conflict at all. Like if there's some other relationship there that is definitely problematic, which we've got like often like these conflicts that judges don't want to.
Yeah, for all we know, his wife.
From.
For all we know, his Diener's wife knew Richard Allen or something loosely.
Yeah, I'm trying to think whether I do specifically know that. I think it's one of the big things that like really like. I mean, you speculate a lot about like what Richard Allen's running the show, or I mean, the amount of information that's available on Richard Allen is suspiciously lacking.
Well, if you listen to his attorneys, they don't know a whole lot about this Odinism stuff, and they've been in the game for a long time. So for them not to know anything about it kind of tells you a little bit. And also, it was Richard Allen who came to his defense team and said, "These guards are threatening me." That's where it was born. The theory was born right there and then.
I'm not completely sure about that. I think that there is a lot of crime scene like stuff that certainly was investigated. I mean, I think it's telling that
that stuff was added later. Like none of the evidence points at anything. It's Richard Allen bringing that up, and then the defense team trying to put square pegs in a round hole.
I mean, that's not really that true. Like law enforcement did go down an Odinism angle many times, and for like a consistent amount of time. I mean, you've got the behavior
according to who though?
Unit. Oh no, the BAU, the FBI. They are talking to Brad Holder. They're talking to Patrick.
According to who though? I didn't hear that report from the FBI. I heard it from the defense team. I haven't read these reports.
Yeah, but they specifically quoted a thing that says Click said the FBI said this.
Yeah, and then we can go find a quote from Click. Contrary.
Well, I mean, let's go with like one of the more recent things that we just found out about is that there was a second interview with Brad Holder that wasn't taped supposedly at all, and it was Roland Purdy in Logansport, Police Department, and that they talk. And this is from the state. This is from Nick McClellan. They will talk to Brad Holder about Odinism. Why would they do that in the fall of 2017 if the Odinism stuff isn't real? Like, or like, not that it's not real, but that they were really investigating it.
Well, if people keep tipping it in and they keep bringing these theories, they got to look into it. I mean, I tipped him in early on, like in 2017, about
Yeah,
the
well,
Odinism.
I'm just saying that like that's not where this Odinism theory, like the Odinism theory, isn't new. The Odinism theory has been there from the beginning. Like we can see it. They're talking to Brad Holder, asking him about Odinism.
Well, I can see that it's trying to be painted that way, but if you
But that's
consider the
something that
source,
happened in 2017. They called in Brad Holder to the Logansport Police Department, and it said, and this is the state telling us this. We sat him down and asked him about Odinism.
because he's into it.
Right. I'm just saying that so obviously they were thinking about Odinism from the start.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody sent them photos of his Facebook with the sticks, and they were like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, that could totally be where that what's fueling that, but it's not something that's created by the defense. They're picking up a law enforcement theory and running
Yeah,
with
but
it.
it's not leading to. They're not following the evidence, and then it's a leading here. They're listening to what Richard Allen said, and then they're going through all the evidence, and they're finding everything that connects with that.
You know, that's possible.
In my opinion.
All right, you got any other callers that are in here? Oh man, sorry, this just popped up again, and Robert Ives knew it was non secular from the beginning, and that's
Well, non secular wouldn't be Odinism.
yeah, but he claims he never said non secular, and there isn't evidence to back it up that he
I
ever
think
did
it
say
was in an
this.
indie star, and I think I have it in an old video. If
I actually
when I
just
can find it,
recently saw like there's like one good video that actually goes into this, and where the non secular thing comes from
there's
is
an
an
article.
article written by Cheryl McCollum, who's a very famous like true crime person.
She may have
Um,
recalled it, I think, maybe.
and within like 24 or 48 hours, she edited it was edited to remove the non secular part, but it wasn't a
Mhm.
direct quote from him. It was something that was written
I
inside
have it
the
in. I
article.
have that article. I have a clip of it in one of my videos. I just got to find it.
But yeah, but it's still it seems like it's attributed to him, but it's really her words, and it was removed quickly. So who knows whether he
Reporters
said
do that
this?
shit. They kind
Yeah,
of twist people's words to to add a little
right. Yeah. I
embellishment.
mean, yeah. I mean, he may have said something slightly different, and she wrote, in the article, non secular. But then, I mean, apparently didn't like that phrasing, or he didn't like that he said that to her. But we don't know whether he said that to her or not. But yeah, it's one of the weird things that's like, I mean, man, it's like a Mandela effect thing because so many people swear that they've heard this, yet nobody has a video or audio of him saying it.
Yeah, if you can't hold it up and show me, and if I
Right.
can't look at it, I'm not holding too much into it.
Right. That's where I'm always at. Like, unless you can show me something, I mean, just words don't do it for me.
What do you think about the idea that they may have been on to Richard Allen from the beginning? Because you brought up Ives, and he kind of mentioned, well, we thought this thing would be wrapped up quickly, but I think it was Richard Allen, him stepping in, which prevented that. Do you think it's possible that they were on to him this entire time and
I
them?
don't think that.
You
I
don't
mean,
think so?
I I'm not sure what happened with him. I think that like there's something specific about his tip that he provided, the tip narrative, um, that made it either they basically discredited this tip, that they thought it was not credible or it was inaccurate.
Have you
Like,
heard of the David Kallenberger case out of Indiana?
I don't think so.
Well, Holman is the lead detective of that case, and I believe it happened in 2016. And it also includes that person that I mentioned to you, B. Phillips. Now, B. Phillips is the guy who called in the bomb threat to Packers before and after the murders.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, he's come forward recently and stated that he witnessed the folks who killed David Kallenberger wrap him up in a tarp and ratchet straps wrapped around him, and they buried him in a garage and then eventually moved him. So, this is the guy who had court that day. But the strange thing about this case is one led by Holman is they know who killed him. They've known from the very beginning and they've never made it public.
Yeah, I mean that would be concerning.
Isn't that strange?
Oh no, I mean, yes, it is strange. Like if that's true, that yes, that's strange. And yeah, I don't, you know, the cops are quick to pull you over and give you a ticket, and enforce law, but like then you get a murder and they sit on their hands. I don't get it, man.
Well, they don't have the evidence. They don't have enough for a
Well, they
search
don't have the
warrant.
evidence to pull you over and give you a ticket either. So
Yeah, they do. If your lights not working,
sometimes they do, but like
yeah, if
a
you're
lot of times,
swerving, I'll pull you over. Same with this. He told him that they buried him in this garage that you see on the screen. They went there and he was not there. That's all they can do. All they have is this man's word. They don't have a body. They don't have anybody else coming forward. But I mean, B. Phillips said, I know who killed him. They buried my friend. And Holman can't do anything about it.
I mean, the thing is, you can do things about this sort of stuff. I mean, you can like we know how they like you know got Richard Allen is we bring somebody in and you interrogate them like that's often how you get somewhere on a lot of cases, and like there seemed to be enough to bring people in and interrogate them.
But I feel
Like
like they're
if you're
more
going to do it
worried
on
about
any
the
case,
trial.
the
Like they're
Delphi
worried about
murders
the
case
trial, though.
gets to do
That's
it.
not going to help them in trial. They
Yeah,
need
but no,
something.
but
They need something that's going to help them in trial, like a bullet.
okay, but you also want to catch killers. Like,
That's how you catch them, with evidence.
I mean, there would have been. Well, so let me ask you this: why would they not bring Richard Allen in to like a formal interview and interrogate him? You don't need evidence to do that. You can just ask somebody to come do that, and he did. And when they did ask him, he did do that. Like it was just many years later.
What
Why
if
didn't
they
they?
didn't want to
Why,
tip him off?
why didn't they do that the first week?
What if they didn't want to tip him off?
They
What if
wanted
they
to
were
let it. They
hoping?
wanted to let him run free
No.
for
What if they
5 years.
wanted? What if they wanted to try to gather information, witnesses? Maybe they were hoping people would come forward, and it just never happened because they needed one thing, right? And one thing I think could have been anything. It could have been a person saying, "Yeah, I think Richard Allen did it," or just anything enough to get a search warrant. I think they were really worried about that gun because they didn't arrest Richard Allen until you had YouTubers come forward and make it public that they had a bullet. So you had a YouTuber came and did a live stream about the bullet that Julie Melvin made public to her, and she outed it. And then not even a week later, we're hearing about Richard Allen. I think they were afraid he was going to get rid of that gun.
I mean, I'm skeptical that that this wasn't something that did surface more recently. Kind of, I mean, taking their word for it, that this tip narrative was brought to somebody's attention, and then they started looking at it.
Yeah, very vague about all that.
I don't think they're lying about that. I think that is true.
But we really don't know what happened with that. Like they haven't even told us, oh, we discovered a lost tip narrative in the Orion system and it was handed over to Tony Liggett. Okay. Well, how'd you find it first off? Because if it's lost, you would need a point of reference, which means somebody told you the name Richard Allen. You typed it in and then it pulled that needle out of the haystack. So how did you get to that point? They haven't told us yet.
I think that they weren't truthful when they said they would go back and go start from the beginning of the investigation and go through everything. Like we know that they weren't truthful. Like they didn't look at these tips the second time. They didn't have the interviews to go rewatch because they were deleted. So when they said they would go back to the beginning, like, well, they lied. Doug Carter lied about what they were actually doing. Maybe he didn't know, but as a group,
Talking points.
they were talking points. It was a public, like perception sort of thing that they were selling, but they weren't actually doing the things that they said they would do.
And if they did, they lost that tip so much that they couldn't find it. But it's my opinion. I think that
I
there
mean,
is a chance that they knew about him,
I
about
think
Richard
that
Allen.
the way it works is that there's ways to flag tips, and like you basically can flag something as like this isn't credible, this is incorrect information, and there's some sort of flag that got associated with his tip to where like it doesn't even pull when you're looking at tips because it's just not a relevant tip. It's not relevant or it's not credible. So I mean, there could be a number of reasons. We don't have a date for that tip. We don't have a date that Richard Allen said he was there. Like he could have said that I was there on the day before. And they were like, well, that doesn't help us, dude. So we're just going to flag it that way. Like but we have no idea. Maybe they only realized recently, but like, wait, is he talking about like the same day?
No, they said that they put his name in incorrectly. They put his last name as his
Yeah, but you
street
don't need
name.
to search his name. It doesn't matter what his name is. His name can be Joe Smith, and you still would look at this the same way. It doesn't. It's not
Depends on
relevant.
how you file it, though. They're saying there was some kind of an error.
Yeah, but the FBI said that was bullshit.
So if I have folders on my computer and I put already checked, if I have a folder titled already checked, trash later, and I accidentally put something in there, I'm not going to know that.
Right, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't look in that folder. Like,
Not if it's been trashed.
well, it's not going to be trashed. I mean, they're not trashing things. They're flagging things, and yeah, maybe put them in different folders, but it's
I
not.
can't remember. The FBI responded in a specific way saying that they followed protocol, but
Right.
somebody over there, they did something wrong to where they were unable to find it.
I don't think that they said they couldn't. It's not that they couldn't find it. Like tip
They weren't
70.
even looking for it.
I mean, tip 74 is always going to be tip 74. It doesn't disappear.
But it's not a tip, really. Like his call was a tip, but then his interview was almost like he's now like a witness or something.
Right. The witness stand. And why wouldn't you follow up with an important witness that
Well, it should
saw?
have been at the top of the line. That's what I was
Right.
going to get to. Only three things are possible. Dan Doolin is incompetent. One, Richard Allen is extremely persuasive, or three, that there's corruption and they hid it on purpose.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure which of those is I would lean towards.
I'm thinking that Richard Allen is extremely persuasive. I'm telling you, this dude could be like a Jedi mind, very proactive, doing Jedi mind tricks on people.
Well, I don't think that he's doing that remotely. Like he called the tip
Dan
line.
Doolin, with Dan Doolin. Like he's in front of him going, look at me, little old me. Look, who knows? Maybe he even brought his daughter with him or something. He put on his Cosby
I mean,
sweater.
I don't think. I mean that's an extreme level of incompetence to not follow up with this guy as a key witness.
I just don't underestimate these kind of folks. Like, if he's that killer and he pre-planned this, that means that he's been hiding from everybody his entire life. He's manipulating everybody in real time. If he's the killer.
Yes. I don't know enough about him to speculate. Like that seems like a stretch, but yeah, it's totally possible. I mean, I would like more information on this guy.
What's up, Harvey?
I think it's really telling that you've got so much focus on this case and all these this true crime community, and like nobody can dig up any information on Richard Allen
because he designed it that way.
Potentially, I would speculate that law enforcement designed it this way. When it's something that we see really often. If there's like a mass shooting or something, like they'll take down their social media really quickly. I speculate that he did have a social media footprint. and while they had him detained, they had it all removed. And I don't have I have minimal evidence of that, but I have some
They're not
evidence
going to
of
be
that.
able to do that.
Oh, they can do that.
The federal government can do that to somebody like, but Facebook would have to agree to it. Facebook's not going
Oh,
to
but
agree to something like that.
they do it like when there's a mass shooting.
That's
They'll call.
different, though. That's different. That's because Facebook, YouTube, all these places, they're invested in all of that. When it comes to stuff like that, they do it. The law enforcement doesn't tell them to. They're willing. They're already.
I think law enforcement contacts them for sure.
Yeah, they can't do that. The same reason why Keegan Klein's Facebook is still up and a lot of these missing people, their Facebooks are still up. They can't do that. It's Facebook that
Well,
agrees to do it.
there's a difference between like a regular, run of the mill criminal and like something that could be a lot more explosive than that.
Like the Stephen, what's his name? Stephen Stevens or whatever in the Madeline Soto case. His Facebook's still up.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the situation, but I think it does happen. Normally, we see it with like these mass shootings.
Yeah,
they've got
because I
YouTube
think
and
they're willing to. They're like, okay, it's requested, and then when it's that type of a situation where they don't want to put that type of killer's face
right,
on there,
and
but
this is total.
otherwise, I think it's different.
I mean, it's total speculation. I just suspect that while they had him detained over the weekend, that they did make that sort
That's
of
a
request.
stretch. Yeah, that's a stretch, in my opinion.
I mean, I think that I'm trying to think like what. I mean, I know in like his class reunion type of stuff that like there's a list of people they didn't have like social media contact for, and he wasn't on that list, which indicates that he was available in some manner, but now he is invisible. And you're right. I mean, he may have had the presence of mind to proactively work on that at some point.
His
Before
wife
he the right
has
guy.
nothing from like what was it all the way through 2017? Nothing with him on it. From 2016 to 2018, there's nothing with Richard Allen on her Facebook. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's hard to speculate. I think
Is it him hiding?
I think
Maybe
lots of
it's
people go
him. I
on
think.
social media like break
Yeah,
and
I
don't,
don't
or
blame her though. I don't say like
there's.
she's trying to hide. I think he's hiding.
I mean, it's possible, like especially if he's the right guy. Yeah, you would expect that like he would have um, been proactive in trying to insulate himself.
Looks like we got Simon Wright joining us. Welcome on, Simon Wright. You're on with
Hi,
Phoenix
Patrick. Hi,
and
Dean.
Sleuth Intuition.
Good morning,
Yeah,
Simon.
so I know that you know me, Dean. I don't think Patrick knows me very well. But I was just going to comment on something that I came across in December 2021, which was a point where I've been made aware of Richard Allen, but not as bridge guy, but as something else. And what I can confirm is that there was definitely no digital footprint 10 months before he was arrested. As I looked for it.
Okay, that's
Okay.
good. That's good to know because, like, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people weren't looking at him, so you did have. I mean,
I had opportunity
based on what you're saying, yeah, if you had the opportunity to really like, sleuth this guy before his
Yeah,
arrest and
I
what you would
looked
have
at Kathy
found at the
Allen's
time.
Facebook page, and I think I looked at somebody else's Facebook page as well, but I never looked at Richard Allen's.
Well, you not looked. I mean, did you try to look for it though?
Yeah, I tried to look for it. I couldn't find it. I had to be directed to Kathy Allen's. I couldn't find Richard Allen at all, but I was directed to Kathy Allen.
Gotcha. I mean, the thing is, like, not everybody's on Facebook. That's not, and there's a lot of avenues for digital footprint, and I would really encourage people, like, currently, like, whichever side, if you think he's the right guy, if you think he's the wrong guy, any information that can be like discovered on Richard Allen is potentially very, very useful. And yeah, you're not going to see it on the main platforms because it's not there. But like, you never know where somebody's lurking out on the internet.
Forums.
Forums, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know if he's on some sort of gun forum or a knife forum or something. I would just encourage people to look and see if you can find any evidence, because I put my pro prosecution hat on, and I would be very concerned about, do they have enough to nail this guy? And in the smallest piece of evidence could be very helpful. You can call. The tip line is still open. This is still an active and open investigation. So if anybody can find any information that is like relevant would be the key word. Don't tip in crazy theories and stuff. But like, if you can find actual evidence of something, that it's potentially very useful.
Yeah. Sleuth mentioned about Richard Allen being known to law enforcement in advance of his arrest. And I think that's very, you've heard my theory already, Fiend, but I think that's a very good assumption to make based
we
on
know
the
it
Tim Riley
happens.
comments.
I know for a fact that it does happen, and it happens under Holman's watch.
Right. Yeah. Well, Kim Riley made a comment in July 2017 that looks very suspicious now. And it was the killer had red hair, not blue eyes. Fiend must be sick of hearing this, because I'm sure he's heard it 2 or 3 times. But he made that comment regarding blue eyes or not blue eyes and red hair. Now, we now know that Richard Allen does have blue eyes and he doesn't have red hair. So
He kind of does have reddish brown hair, and his eyes are blue enough to where you would say not blue. You know what I mean? Like, it's more of a green or a gray. Like, why say not blue? There's a reason for that. It's because you might mistake him for blue, but it's not blue.
And the other thing as well is, for Kim Riley to come out and say that, you'd expect a number of a number of witnesses to have said the same thing, not just one, because you can't take one person's word that anything was right. It needs to be confirmed.
Well, not only that, how do you drive by somebody and you know anything about their eyes? I guess we could start there.
How do you drive by somebody and know that they've committed a murder? I mean, that's more of my question. Like,
they reported it just a muddy and bloody guy.
Yeah, but we know the bloody part is contended quite a lot. But like, how do you know that guy's not a farmer? Like, it doesn't. It could be relevant or it could not be relevant. It doesn't change whether.
It doesn't make it Richard Allen, is what you're saying.
It doesn't make it Richard Allen. It doesn't make it a killer. The witnesses seeing somebody on the trails doesn't make it Richard Allen, and it doesn't make it the killer, and it doesn't really factor in whether Richard Allen.
But it could very well be the killer. Nobody came forward and said, "Hey, I'm the muddy and bloody guy." The guy's coming out near the cemetery where they think the killer escaped. So I mean, it's definitely important information.
Yeah, but we can't both believe that this was a thorough investigation and like they were using like common sense and logic and following up with witnesses, when we know that they didn't ever follow up with Richard Allen, who was a witness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know there's huge missteps.
Well, ask yourself why, though.
We know that they don't have any of the interviews from the first week, or even a list of the people that they interviewed. They just don't know. That's a problem. Like, we know that there's a problem with this investigation. It wouldn't, and if Richard Allen is the guy, then it's even more true that like this investigation.
I just don't think any of those problems matter if you can prove that Richard Allen is the bridge guy. All that goes away. None of it matters. We got him. He's the bridge guy. He's the kidnapper. If others are involved, he's the one that knows.
I don't put a lot of weight on that, because I would need to see. I mean, it would be the same sort of thing, just proving that the bridge guy is the killer. I don't have any. I don't see that. That's not something that there's evidence presented that this guy actually is the killer. Like,
well, not to us. We shouldn't expect that evidence.
There's many examples where they kind of said that, you know, he might not be. So I gotta kind of take them at their word for that too.
Well, they're saying he might not be like the hands-on killer, but he's definitely the kidnapper, and that's all. That's all they intend to prove.
Well, I mean, I think that goes back to the very beginning as far as what, you know, if he's the guy, or if he's implicated in this, was he a lone wolf, or is there somebody else? Was there somebody else? And where is that person?
And that's their defense right now.
If
Is
that person is out running around, I think that's an extremely dangerous
Mhm.
situation for the public.
Like I said, this is a very strange case, and they need to answer for a lot of that. And that's why I offer up these theories about them knowing Richard Allen from the beginning, because it would explain a lot of this weird stuff.
It does. I think they must have known that there was more to it. You mentioned Keegan's line and the shots connection. Maybe they were just trying to weed that out and see what happened there. I don't know. Well, it looks like Richard Allen was forgotten, but I bet he wasn't.
And I don't know. I just know that after studying this other case that they've had the killers. They know what happened. They just don't have a body. Without a body, you can't get a conviction. Or if they don't have enough evidence, they're not going to get a conviction. They can bring anybody they want in and interrogate them. But if they don't have that evidence for a trial, there's nothing that they can do. They have to wait and keep working and working until they have that. Something tangible. And that's what they have with Richard Allen. They have something that they can hold up in the courtroom. They can have a bunch of experts, you know, all these fancy people in ties with degrees and all of that stuff. Say, hey, look at all these other search warrants that were served. Look at all these other 40 caliber comparisons. You see how none of them match? Well, lo and behold, when we searched Richard Allen's home, look at this comparison. It's an exact match.
I really don't think that that's plausible that they're going to do that sort of thing. You know,
I think that's exactly what they'll do.
You think they're going to present that they've tested other guns, because that's not how this stuff goes. You know, they only focus on the relevant stuff and not the other stuff. Like, that's where they open themselves up.
But it is relevant.
I mean, I can almost assure you that they are not going to present that they tested other guns and those analyses.
Why would they keep that out? That's fact. It's a fact about the case. It's factual. They're going to have to explain why it's so important that they have this comparison. Why is it important that this matches? How do you know it matches? What's the difference?
I mean, yeah, they'll ask those questions, but it's only going to be specific to this one analysis.
And it may be, and they may show other comparisons to people who weren't searched, but they're going to have to show them what the difference is.
I mean, I think that it's going to be limited. That they're going to show, hey, this is the scratch mark on the cartridge we found, and this is the scratch mark on our test, and that's all of it. And you know, that could
maybe not.
That could be very convincing, depending on how identical they are.
Well, the way I know that it's going to be convincing,
not very convincing at all. Like, you have to see it.
The way I know it's going to be convincing is because the prosecutor tried to recruit the expert that the defense was using to debunk the bullet, because they agreed.
I guess I'm not aware of that. You know, I only look at what's on paper. And
no, it's on paper. That's why the defense was upset that that the prosecutor was using that information, that they were planning to use what they accidentally made public, and the prosecutor was telling him, well, you should know better. You're the one that made it public. Don't blame me for using that information or recruiting your experts once you leak them. But then he actually took the higher road and said, I'll back off that. I won't use it. Don't need it.
That was regarding psychologist stuff, right? Not bullet stuff.
No, I think it had to do with all of that. It was all leaked.
Well, I mean,
I'm supposed to be
that was
ethical
that was
because
a
you
big
leaked
part of
it.
the
Like,
filing yesterday. But like the prosecution is not supposed to have access to ex parte filings, and they're not supposed to read ex parte filings.
and you're not supposed to make it available either.
Well, they claim they didn't.
They did though.
Well, you've got a disagreement on facts.
How did they get it? I mean, they tried to blame it on I think Fig or something, but that's not what
No,
happened.
I don't think that the defense is really blaming like anybody outside of the court staff. I think that it's it is specific to what Judge Gull was like providing a tutorial on. Like, it's what her staff was doing something wrong. It was available to the prosecutor when it shouldn't have been. And
Yeah, exactly.
but even if it is available to the prosecutor still shouldn't read it.
And he didn't. But I mean, when you have the defense team,
we
they're
know that
lowering
he
the
definitely
bar.
read one because he
Yeah, but when you lower the
quoted
ethical bar so low, if the prosecution even wants to respond, they got to go low too. And then they backed off. Like, I don't want to go that low.
Breaking
That's
the law
gross down there.
I mean, I'm not gonna say, hey, it's fine for him to read ex parte filings when it's totally an ethical breach.
I agree with that. So I think the question
there,
is,
there have to be rules in the legal
but who
system.
made it public is the question. It's not like he's digging for it. If they're incompetent and they don't file it properly and it ends up on your desk, whose fault is that?
I mean, even if you like leave a folder behind on the prosecutor's desk and it says ex parte at the top of it.
Well, you can't open it, but I'm telling you, if somebody handed you the actual piece of paper where you're looking right at it,
you're required to not look at it. These are like legal obligations.
I don't think so.
I mean, that's what ex parte means. Like
it is ex parte means that it's going to be private and it shouldn't be provided to the prosecutor. But if it is, they can recruit those experts. It's happened in many cases.
I know, but they're not supposed to do that. Like, he knows.
Is it ethical, professional? No. Is it against the law? I don't know. I think you have to take that case by case. I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, there's a disagreement as far as the defense team says they filed everything perfectly, and the court staff, is who made it available to the prosecutor when it should never have been made available to the prosecutor. So, that would be something that we don't know the final answer on because both sides are saying different things.
Yeah, it's a lot of pre-trial nonsense that we wouldn't have to deal with if Richard Allen would just hurry up and if he would have gone forward with trial a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I don't try to like impart like, hey, what should somebody's defense strategy be? Like, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know what the best strategy is. I don't have access to any of the information.
Yep, that's a good point, and I think they're waiting for trial for that. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot more. I don't know if they need a whole lot more, but I guarantee there's going to be a few pieces of bombshell information.
I think there are. I was just saying that earlier today, that I think there are going to be certain, not that they are necessarily like relevant to the case, but I think there's going to be some basic pieces of information that do find out that will be dramatic and would potentially change people's like opinions on things, but I don't know that it's specific to the case. I think there's going to be some very basic stuff like
I would say it's everything to do with what the defense has not talked about, and that's Richard Allen's alibi. If he doesn't have an alibi, it's going to be very difficult for him.
I mean, I would assume that there's not some verifiable alibi. Typically you don't get this far if there is.
Yeah, so
if there's some easy explanation with proof of him being somewhere else and not being able to have committed the crimes, like it has to at least be possible that he's involved.
Yeah, I call it the any case. So the defense doesn't care, or the prosecutor doesn't care about any other theories, because any other theory out there, you're just helping them tie it to Richard Allen, who they plan to prove is the bridge guy. So if you have other actors, okay, you're going to have to prove how Richard Allen is tied in with those folks.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before, and I mean, I think that that's definitely something that they consider.
Is that your
Like,
Brad Holder angle? Is trying to possibly tie those two together, or just looking?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of focus on Brad Holder, like by lots of people,
Well,
for
always.
lots of reasons.
We've been looking at him since 2017.
Right. I don't think it's not warranted. I would think that law enforcement would have thoroughly vetted excluding him. I don't see where that actually ever happened.
And we shouldn't know about that. They'll tell us during the trial.
Well, they don't. They don't need to, because I mean,
He's not a suspect.
I mean, yeah. I mean, have you been following the Karen Reed trial at all?
No, not at all. As soon as I seen there was like this weird divide amongst people, I just back away.
Yeah, it's a really interesting legal case though, because the prosecution kind of knew the angle that the defense, or thinks they know the angle the defense is going to take, and so they brought up all those witnesses and basically have been trying to like show that they weren't involved. So so a parallel would be like him, and the Nick McClellan knows that the defense is going to bring up an Odinism theory. So to preempt that, they would call as witnesses Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Johnny Messer, and show that they weren't involved. I'd be very interested to see if.
Did you hear about the deposition that Brad Holder had recently? Do you know much about that?
Yeah, I mean, I know what, as far as what has been made public, in filings. Yeah, I think the details of that deposition are interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. That's why I'm looking. I've never taken him off the plate ever. But I just don't get carried away with the whole Freemasonry and all of that stuff.
No, I mean, that's, yeah. I would eliminate all of the, my from my opinion, looking at Brad Holder has zero to do with Odinism or Freemasonry or any conspiracy or anything like that. I think a nexus of family relationship is enough to look at it, and
yeah, look at it, but
and then find whether evidence supports that there's some involvement or whether it eliminates that there's some sort of involvement. And I haven't found much that eliminates it. I think there's a lot that circumstantially supports that there's.
I think it's the
there.
sticks. The sticks. I think people are trying to make that into something that it's not, and then they're taking the leap into Brad Holder. Brad Holder's not interesting when the sticks no longer matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a piece. I think it's a piece. I think the Odinism is a piece when you already are committed to looking at them. But I would look at all the other pieces. Is this somebody that changed their appearance? Is it somebody that changed their lifestyle? We got check marks there. He shaves his beard and his head, and he goes off social media.
Apparently, he did that all the time, though.
He moves to a new apartment. He gets rid of his.
He got a divorce.
He gets a new car. He gets rid of his dog and his cat. Like, why are all these things like? I'm just saying, they're just circumstantial.
When you lose your job,
pieces, yeah, they're not definitive.
But when you lose your job, you lose your car, you lose your wife, you get drunk and depressed, and you lose your job. Then you lose your car.
Yeah,
now you got a new car.
I'm not saying that these things are not explainable. I'm just saying that they're pieces of information, and like when you start stacking up pieces of information, like,
then you start getting bias.
Well, it's not bias because I'm not committed to like any particular theory. Like will I rank theories? Maybe, like if I'm forced to like pick a theory, but
which is Richard Allen being a lone wolf killed Abby and Libby. That's the number one theory, right?
Not for me. No, I would put that theory very, very low. And like there's so many different possible realities, because I don't know what actually happened. But
he was there that day, right?
I don't even know that because
Well, you got bigger problems.
No, I mean, I'm looking at the tip narrative, and the tip narrative does not say which day that he was there, and I you know, I would assume I assume he did. I'm not like I'm denying that. It's just I don't know that 100%. Is it 99.9 sure? But I wouldn't say that I for sure know that he was there that day.
Well, you're definitely overwhelming yourself.
Oh, I'm not overwhelmed by it. I mean, there's every element of a crime has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So, I assume that they can prove that he was there that day, but like it is an element that they do have to prove. Like they don't assume all this stuff in a trial. They have to prove it. So I assume that they will be able to prove it, but I haven't seen the rock solid proof of it. And I
You don't trust the investigators. So I kind of see your conflict. You haven't seen it yourself,
well,
and you're not. You don't trust them.
And it also fits together because there's some reason that this tip was not given credence. Like, imagine that he was there on a different day, and that's what he like. If that's the reality, doesn't it make sense that you wouldn't ever look at that tip and again because it's this jackass said he was there on the wrong day, so it's not relevant to anything.
But that's not what happened.
Well, I don't know what happened because I don't have the the access.
Yeah, the witnesses, they're going to be able to say, yeah, the guy, they're not going to say, hey, that's Richard Allen, but they're going to say the guy that passed us is the guy that we see on that video, on Libby's video. And then in some way or the other, they're going to prove that the guy on the video is Richard Allen.
I mean, yeah, that might be their part of their strategy. I assume it is, but I'm going off of the affidavit for search warrant and the PCA, and those descriptions to me do not match up.
Yeah, they don't need to describe him. They just need to verify the video.
It's somebody that's taller, when somebody says that it's somebody that was, a full head taller than me, like those are elements that don't match up to Richard Allen. So, and that doesn't mean whether like they may have just seen some other random guy. That doesn't move the needle that much as far as whether he's the right guy or not. Like to some people, they really want to hang their hat. Like, well, they saw this guy walking, but like seeing a guy walking doesn't make a guy a murderer. Like they didn't witness the murder. They
didn't say that they saw some guy walking. They said they saw the bridge guy walking. That's who passed them. They said the guy that passed them is the guy in Libby's video.
That's not stated in.
It is stated.
It's not stated in the probable cause.
It's stated in the probable cause. It says that we showed them the photographs, the stills from Libby's video, showed them the photo, and they said that's the guy we saw.
Patrick, that is not accurate. That's not what they say.
It is accurate. I've read it 100 times, dude. It's in there.
Well, for something that's accurate, you can pull that up and show that where, I've read it many times as well. They don't say that they did some sort of like side by side and show us like we showed them the photo of the guy. That's not what they say. They
say we showed him the photo.
They do not say that.
Yeah, they do. They literally state that they show him a photo. Showed the witnesses a photo.
All right, I'll have to go double check that, but that is not my understanding. I think that they just take their actual statements and very paraphrase what they say and what they're, how tall the guy was, what they were wearing. Not even direct quotes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that matching them up really does much for me anyway. Because you could see it, like, as far as like, if anything, it hurts. I think the witness statements are hurtful. Like, they don't help. Because how is Richard Allen can't be a head and shoulders above somebody like that? That's just how.
Well, that was never said either.
No, that is said.
It doesn't say shoulder and a head. He says up to his shoulder.
Up to his shoulder. That would make.
That doesn't make him a shoulder and a head taller.
About a foot taller. That's how.
No.
That's how the length of a head is.
But
How
you
you
make it sound as if you walk by a perfect stranger and then you guys go back to each other and then you write down notes like, okay, this is how tall this guy was. I was up to his shoulder. You're walking by somebody.
I mean, they say taller, and they say I came up to his shoulder. I mean, I don't know what else somebody can make of that, except that it's probably somebody taller than that's.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You think that when she was walking past this guy, she's like, wow, I'm up to his shoulder.
No,
But
I don't think that the witness statements are probably very good. You know, there's a lot of inconsistencies from
well,
one
no
person
witness
to another.
statements are good. That's the problem is witnesses, they're trying to recall something they're not supposed to.
Right. I mean, I agree with that. I
So
don't
you
think.
can't take some things in, and put weight to them and then throw out the rest.
No, I'm not giving them weight. I'm just saying that on their face, they are not consistent with each other or with Richard Allen.
And they shouldn't be.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they should be like.
Okay. That's the
But
point I'm making, that they shouldn't be. The important part of these witnesses are that they said that the guy on the bridge is the guy that they saw. That's it. That's why the only reason we're talking about him.
yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'm in no way convinced of that.
The question is that guy
The person
Richard
that they
Allen?
saw is and it doesn't impact like whether I think that he's guilty or not either. Like whether they saw him or they saw somebody else, like that doesn't do anything for me.
You don't think this guy looks like Richard Allen?
I don't think that guy looks like anybody in particular. Like I don't think that
Scrunched up pants, short legs, stocky upper build. That doesn't resemble Richard Allen to you at all? I mean, honestly.
to me,
The
no.
blue coat that he has on Kathy Allen's Facebook, the
No.
end of 2016.
And I think that like if it did resemble anybody, and very specifically if it did resemble Richard Allen, that people seeing Richard Allen, cops seeing Richard Allen at CVS, there's one singular pharmacy in town. Like everybody has to go there. The cops did go there. Patrick Westfall was buying his mead there. These people, everybody saw this guy. So if it
Not like
resembled,
this, though. The only people who saw him like this were his family. At CVS, they didn't see him wearing blue
no,
jeans
Richard
and
Allen
a
would go to
hoodie and a blue coat.
Richard Allen had to go to work in the winter, and he had to wear a coat. Like people would have seen this guy wearing blue jeans and a coat.
Not necessarily.
You don't think you wear a coat in the winter?
I don't know if he wore that coat. Maybe he had a nicer
then,
jacket. I would wear a nicer coat to work.
Right. No, I wouldn't wear a coat that was used in a murder to work for sure. But like, I don't think
it would be before that as well,
Right. I'm just saying, lots of people saw him. So if there was lots of opportunity to identify whoever this is, that's the point I'm getting at, is that looking at these frames didn't move the needle for anybody. Like it never solved the crime.
I don't think it was supposed to. Like I said, the theory of them possibly knowing Richard Allen, they need something more. They were hoping somebody would come forward and say, that's Richard Allen. So now they have something to bring to the judge. Like, look, we're having people coming forward telling us that this is the guy who told us he was there. Can we go search his home? That never happened.
Yeah, I mean, your logic is kind of backwards here, because they didn't search his home before they interrogated him. So like, there's no reason they couldn't have interrogated him way back in the first week of the investigation.
Well,
And
if they interrogate him, though, he goes home and gets rid of the gun.
Maybe they did bring him in for an interview, deleted the interview, don't have a list of who they interviewed, and they're just missing that interview.
If my only piece of evidence was a bullet, and that's what I'm holding on to,
yeah,
and I'm
they
keeping
didn't
that
get the bullet before they talked to him.
They had it on the 14th.
Well, I mean, they didn't have his gun, before they talked to him.
Yeah, but they wanted his gun. So if you interrogate him, he goes home, and what's he going to do? Get rid of the gun.
Yeah, but that same situation already happened in October of 2022. That they talked to him, Then they got a search warrant and got his gun, and he didn't get rid of the gun.
I don't know if they interrogated him.
Well,
And when they came back, they
at least they interviewed him. They talked to him.
yeah, and I'm sure they were watching
They follow
him.
up, interviewed him, and that sequence of events.
I don't think so. I think they had somebody parked outside his house.
That happened to not have happened in 2017 versus 2022.
Yeah, something's there. I get what you're saying. They didn't have anything more than they did in 2017. So yeah, I agree. They had something new. There has to be something new.
I mean, I think that they just. I mean, I take them at their word that they came across this tip narrative that they didn't. That for whatever reason wasn't. They hadn't looked at, and they certainly should have looked at it. And there's
should have been on the top of the list.
I mean,
Should have been on the top of
literally
the pile.
is on the top of the list because tip number 74 out of 20,000 tips. That's the top of the list.
And he's a witness. If anything, like he should be in every conversation. Well, what about Richard Allen when he was here at this time? He should have been part of every conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I agree thoroughly. Like whether he's whether he's involved or not, like, I mean, he is involved to the extent that, like, at the very minimum, like, he's a witness to something, and he said he saw people there. Like, that's worthy of following up on. Like, you're not actually investigating unless you talk to people that saw other people there.
All right. Tell me what you think of this. Let me know if you can hear it.
Rick. Gabe, snap. There's the word shirt coming up. Guys. Yeah, Rick. Guys. Rick. Guys. Rick. Guys. Rick. Guys. Yeah, Gabe, snap. There's the word shirt coming up.
What do you think about that?
To me, that like, I don't see any comparison to them, really.
You don't think they're the same people?
I don't. They don't sound similar to me, and that doesn't, like, inform my opinion on anything. Whether I do, like, whether I think they're alike or not, like, it still doesn't, like, move the needle for me.
You know what it reminds me of? Have you ever seen that? It's like a mind trick. That green needle.
Yes.
That's what it reminds me of. Like, if you're thinking of somebody and then you hear it, you kind of hear them.
Right, but that would apply to you, not me.
I'm just applying to the truth. I'm not applying it to anybody. We're talking about.
No, I'm not predisposed to make a match there. I don't hear the match.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's hard. So we're just having a conversation. I'm not calling you out on it or anything.
Yeah, and he might, like, maybe that is his voice, and it just doesn't sound the same. That's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't know. I think it sounds similar, but like I said, that's just me, and I'm biased for sure.
So it's just opinion, and the thing about it, if it sounds similar, I'm going back to, like, logic, and if it sounded similar, then why couldn't anybody identify it when the guy talks?
Well, he had friends that came forward and said, "Hey, we know who the bridge guy is, and he's been cleared. Why are you guys still talking about him?"
I mean, what are you speaking of specifically? Because I think that's mostly been debunked.
I don't think so.
The Dan Howard stuff is debunked.
How is that debunked?
I mean, you can go read the comments.
I've read the comments.
Yeah, but it doesn't refer to Richard Allen.
Who is he referring to?
I believe he's referring to Ron Logan, and it's not somebody that has any actual knowledge. It's just a random YouTube comment. It's not even the Dan Howard that lives in the area.
Yeah, it is.
It is not.
It is 100% the same Dan Howard that played pool with Richard Allen. I've proven that myself.
I've looked.
You can prove it now. That same Dan Howard is on Kathy Allen's friends list.
Kathy Allen's Facebook page isn't active to verify that.
I have a screenshot.
Okay. Well, I mean,
have it. Jake, what is
There-
it? Jonathan
that
Jonathan Lee
doesn't-
Riches. He documented her whole Facebook. You can go there if you want to see it for yourself.
Yeah, no, I looked at it all at the time as well.
It's definitely him.
I mean, you're saying it's definitely him, but like, there's nothing that is going to prove that it's definitely him, because that's just Dan Howard on a YouTube comment versus.
Well, I'm not saying it's 100% him talking about Richard
Howard
Allen,
on Facebook,
but it is Dan Howard.
And Dan Howard isn't that. If it was a more unique name, I'd give that to somebody. But Dan Howard is a generic ass name.
It's not the name; it's his photo. He still has it.
No, yeah, I'm aware of everything about Dan Howard, and I'm not. I don't see that there's anything that provides any sort of link.
Well, I know that it's Dan Howard, but is he talking about Richard Allen? That's the question.
I think if you read the comments in context, it's apparent that it doesn't actually refer to. Like,
well,
it does refer to somebody, and who it refers to is identifiable.
Well, if you look at the report that they're commenting on, what he commented on has nothing to do with Ron Logan. It's the bridge guy, and them releasing the photo and calling him a suspect. And he says, "You guys need to correct this. This person's been cleared," and that fits right in with Richard Allen because he has been cleared. He came forward, spoke to law enforcement, and they were not interested in him. So it makes perfect sense for this guy, Dan Howard, who is his pal, to say, "Hey, what the hell is going on here?" I think this is the reason why nobody came forward. There was so much confusion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is speculation, and I think the vetting it has more debunked it rather than supported it.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that.
Stuff. Like,
we'll have to agree to disagree on that, because I mean,
I look for lots of things to implicate Richard Allen. Like I thoroughly look for that information. I would encourage everybody to, because you never know whether.
Yeah, but you can't explain it away like that. Like you just said, this was debunked, and that's just 100% wrong. So you have to be honest with yourself too.
From what I've seen, it's like. From what I've personally researched, I don't find anything supporting it. And from what I've seen other people present, I lean towards that it's debunked rather than supported. I don't definitively know. What you're saying could end up being correct, but I don't.
Let me see. I think I might have some of this information.
I have to see the actual connection. Like all of this, I have to see it shown to me, like to give something weight.
Yeah, maybe we'll put some of this information together for another talk. So,
yeah.
Before we close it down, Fiend, anything you want to say? Any of these comments you want to address?
I haven't really been watching the comments, and I'm guessing people don't like me because I am hard to convince.
I don't see anybody attacking you personally. It looks like more people are kind of attacking me. Let's see, Jenny. The prosecution has a lot to answer for. This case proves civics government classes aren't taught as often as they should be. So are we dealing with corruption or incompetence? I say incompetence.
It's probably a little bit of both.
People are ignorant if they don't think Kathy Allen knew. I don't know. I don't take anything away from what Richard Allen is capable of if he's the killer, because that means that he's doing Jedi mind tricks on everybody.
I have not seen any evidence of people being able to perform Jedi mind tricks.
These killers, man, all these cases that we cover, yeah, they're very good at it. Like the BTK, oh man, he wore a family as camouflage. Gary Ridgway, the only reason he had a family is so he could put their pictures in his wallet. He killed one of his victims with his son.
See that that's possible.
In the car. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These guys, if he's the killer.
Yeah, if that's Oh yeah, I would give him a lot of credit if like
But
give him more credit for being lucky than being some Jedi master. But there's probably elements of both.
yeah, I think he learned if he's the killer, he would have learned at a young age that he's not normal.
I mean, the problem that I really have with theorizing that he's some monster all along is that like he, for the most part, he was married his high school sweetheart right out of high school and was basically his whole life has been monitored. So
Well, from what I've heard is they weren't high school sweethearts. They were just friends, and a few years passed, and then they got married.
I'd have to go look at the timeline. I mean, I've got all the marriage records and stuff. I believe that it was
so we can't paint this like fairy tale photo. We have to be accurate.
Right. I mean, I'll go pull it back up and verify those dates, but I'm pretty sure that it was, directly.
They did go to school together.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, they went to different schools.
They went to school together and separated. Peru and Miami.
Yeah. Gotcha. So you meant they went to school like at a younger age?
Yeah, at some point they did go to school together.
Yeah, I don't know if I have like records of like I don't know. I've got all sorts of data.
You got a final thought?
Are you familiar with the filing from yesterday?
Not really.
Not really. I guess my final thought is like I think the judge, it's going out on a limb, but I don't know that this is going to be the judge that hears the trial.
Gall, you think she's out?
I think she's got there's some major problems that I think that they will go to the Supreme Court if that's necessary. I don't even know that it's going to be necessary. I think that she's got some major problems with what her actions.
Guess time will tell, huh?
Oh yeah, that's something that we will get an answer on. I think that there's a lot of answers that we're not going to eventually get, but whether the judge hears the case and is that like gets kicked, that is something that we will find out.
I don't think we'll have to wait. I've been telling everybody here on my channel any day now. I think we'll be hearing a deal made with Richard Allen. I think he's done. I think he's acclimated.
I only see that in if it's the case that he's not a lone wolf and it's possible that a plea deal is in return for implicating somebody else. That scenario, I 100% would be open to. I don't see that he would do a plea deal as a lone wolf because there's nothing to gain in return for that.
Maybe the death penalty.
Yeah, well, it's not been, the death penalty hasn't been.
Could be. I think that
put on the table.
Could be what he's waiting for. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know that that's hugely motivating to most people. To some people, I'm sure it is, but it's got to factor into the equation first before like I would speculate on.
And even the pain of a trial. I mean, they might give him the option. Like, look, man.
I mean, you'll see other cases where the death penalty is immediately on the table, and then you immediately get a plea. There doesn't seem like a good reason to not utilize that same strategy in this case.
But you're right. You're right. If there are others involved, that would be really his only bargaining chip.
Right. I mean, and if that were to be the case, hopefully he would do the right thing and implicate whoever else is involved.
I think any day now. Any day now.
But which way? You think that he's going to implicate somebody else?
I just think he'll plea either way. I think regardless of what we think will happen, I think that they'll give him a deal either way, whether the death penalty's on the table or not. Just and I'm sure they spoke with the family and asked. They're going to do what they want, but they will take in what the family says into consideration. And if they don't want to go through this process, and I know Richard Allen's family doesn't want to go through this process, I figure he's ready. He's past the suicidal stuff. he's past playing this whole character of the BG and getting off on being the killer. If he's the killer, I think he's over it. I think he's ready. He's ready to just have a regular routine schedule where he doesn't have to play like he's sick or insane, or he doesn't have to play this game.
I don't think anything's ever going to get better for him if he's permanently in prison.
Slowly it will. You know, he'll be able to read his book.
I just
grandkids, will start writing. He's got a future. Not much of one, but there's one there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree to disagree, because I think that most likely a plea probably isn't coming. But yeah, I'm totally open to the fact that it could. I think that it's more likely in a scenario where he is able to implicate somebody else and provide something.
And if others were involved, I hope that he does do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I am pro prosecution. Whoever is responsible, I think, should be prosecuted, and as many people that are responsible, I think they should all be prosecuted, and they should all face justice. Whoever it is, and
I agree.
All of them.
All right, Fiend. Thanks for joining me today. I think that's going to do it. We're going to wrap it up. So I appreciate you joining. Great conversation.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks again. Bye. All right, guys. I think we'll spend maybe 5 minutes catching up on the chat. I want to thank Fiend for calling in. I want to thank Simon for calling in. Thank you, Jerry, for sponsoring today's live stream. I'm going to zip all the way to the bottom here, guys. Sorry if I skipped your comments. The video wasn't supposed to help solve the crime. Yes, it was. They wanted somebody who recognized him to come forward, I think, so that they could get a search warrant. Good to see you, V. Gene. Jill Moser. Yeah, I'm here to support Fiend. He's got the common sense. He does. I agree with that. Kevin. All Carhartt coats have a white square logo on the front. Richard Allen says he owned and wore a Carhartt. BG is wearing a windbreaker over a hoodie. Well, we also know that Richard Allen owned this blue jacket, and that doesn't look like a Carhartt. So if he got rid of it, wouldn't you tell the police that you were wearing a Carhartt? That way, if they ask you where is it, you can actually show it to them. Instead of saying, oh, I don't know, I burned it with the rest of my stuff. I burned it with the rest of the evidence. What's up, Daisy, Molly, Cindy, what's up? Yeah, Cindy, you got to be open. You got to be open to the truth, wherever it is. It's somewhere in the middle. We'll find it. Sleuth Intuition, it's page 3 of the probable cause affidavit, which was Betsy. I think they said they showed her the video. Page 3 is the girl saying it matched the photo from the video. Exactly. That's all that matters. So they're not going to have to point Richard Allen out. They're just going to say, yeah, the guy that passed us is the guy in Libby's video. Okay, now they have to prove that Richard Allen is the guy in the video. Well, Richard Allen so happened to say that he passed those 3 girls or passed 3 girls. So now they're going to have to prove that it was those 3 girls and that they're pointing him as the guy in the video. It really is that simple. Okay, so if they can prove that he's the guy in the video, what the hell is your bullet doing at the crime scene? That's a slam dunk right there. So if he doesn't have an alibi or anything like that, I mean, that's it. Public art critic says, what idiot would drop an unspent bullet at the scene? Well, what idiot would kill 2 young girls? That idiot. It's just too obviously staged. It was obviously placed there. Maybe by the same person who placed the girl's shoe. I agree with that part. It was the person who placed the girl's shoe. And probably cleaned off Libby's clothing, cleaned off his DNA off of her clothing, and that's why it was in the creek. What's up, Shadowbox? Good to see you, Harvey. Kevin, I thought a windbreaker also, however, there is a square on the jacket. I'll look again to double check. Peace out, Harvey. Good to see you. Hope you're in good health. Cynthia says he confessed. Confessions aren't always what they seem to be. We covered a case. Here, let me pull it up. The Route 29 stalker case. Now, there's a case loosely related to that of Thelma Scoggins. Let me pull it up real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Okay, this is Thelma Scoggins. Now, some folks broke into her house, murdered her, stole all her stuff in her vehicle. Right around the same time, 2 other women were brutally murdered by the Route 29 stalker. Now, I believe one of these guys was eventually convicted, but 2 of them were tried together. And I believe this person right here in the middle, Eric Glenn Weekly, they offered him a deal. He said, well, I didn't do it. They said, well, we'll give you 7 years. We're going to go for life. We're going for the death sentence for the other group. But for you, we're going to give you 7 years. He's like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, or we're going to take you to trial and you could face the death sentence. You know, you could face life in prison. He said, well, are you serious? Like, I didn't do anything. So he took the 7 years while these other guys went to trial and they were found not guilty. So these guys are found not guilty when this guy took the plea deal and spent 7 years in jail. Tell me that's not crazy. That's some bullshit right there. Confessions are not always what they seem to be. I mean, you guys know about the West Memphis 3. They made a big deal out of the confession from Jesse Miskelly. They talk about 8 hours of interviewing and 45 minutes of recorded confession after they showed him the crime scene photos. Imagine them showing the crime scene photos to Richard Allen and then asking for his statement. DB says, if it was obviously his voice, a lot of people would have tipped him in. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people made bad decisions. Jerry, thanks for the donation and the member flex. Flexing those 16-month biceps, dude. Thank you guys for supporting my channel. Kevin, I think the perpetrator took pictures of the crime scene. The FBI believes he did. I think it's possible. But a lot of times I know they take those trophies, and that's what they use to kind of trigger the memory or the fantasy or reliving the crime. I think that's the whole purpose of the trophy. Why stage the girls so he could relive it? Those pics would be the smoking gun he found. I don't know, Kevin. I don't think he staged the girls as some kind of a message or for shock value. If anything, I think he was just kind of panicked. I think the crime scene tells us a lot about what was going on through the killer's head. I don't think he was trying to leave a message. I don't think it was a ritual. I think it was all panic, regret, million things going through his mind. And then a calm came over him. Think, you idiot. Think, you idiot. Then he moved one of the victims. And then he covered them and did a bunch of weird shit. Spent some time probably maybe cleaning the clothes in the creek. So maybe there was a sexual assault. Maybe some of his blood ended up on their clothing or something. And that's why we have a lot of weirdness. You know, he spent a lot. If it's him, he spent about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes at the crime scene. From the point he abducted the girls to the point he was seen muddy and bloody. So in between there, he could have committed a sexual assault, attempted to, committed a murder, and then attempted to clean the clothing in the creek, get all his DNA off of there and everything, and then just put on whatever clothes he could. I think if he did do that, it tells us a lot about what was going on and a little bit about him. And I think we heard some insight into that from the New Direction presser. We know this is about power to you. We know you have a little bit of conscience left. Shit like that. Yeah, it says Richard, not Ron. Exactly. You don't have the PCA? What's up, Knockface? I'm sorry to hear that, Miranda. I will send some prayers out. I hope the best for him. You hang in there. Christine. All right, we'll go to a few more comments here, and then I got to go, guys. He said he was there and passed 3 girls. I think Richard Allen done it, but we're here for the girls, and we don't argue calling each other out. We agree and disagree. Justice for Abby and Libby. Yeah, if we can find the truth, amen. Like, we're fully aware of the biases we have here, that I have personally. And I have to continually take those into consideration when I'm trying to make a determination or anything like that. You know, you have to take your strengths and your weaknesses and then develop a plan or a strategy accordingly. What's up, Coach Kev? The royal we. There's more than one Dan Howard in the world. Correct, but we found the right Dan Howard. We have the screenshots. We know who it is. And I do believe he was talking about Richard Allen, but I also believe that law enforcement investigators were giving these folks an opportunity for probable deniability, especially his family. Like, I was with him when he came forward, or I was there when he called the tip line. I don't know why he's the bridge guy. For all we know, they know he's the bridge guy. But why come forward if you know your husband has spoken? And you have to take into consideration the Jedi mind trick shit. Richard Allen will say, well, I came forward. This must be part of their strategy. Maybe they're trying to piss off the real killer. You know, who knows what he's telling his family and his friends who know that he's the bridge guy, but also know that he came forward. How do you reconcile that? Well, you don't. You have some creepy guy come and manipulate your thoughts to help lean one way or the other. I think that's what Richard Allen did. He would help people lean one direction or the other. What's up, Solar Chef? All right, we're going to end here with Purdue. Good to see you, Purdue. Phoenix, respectfully, you have met your match. I don't think this was even a debate. Sleuth has done more research than you. Respectfully, you have to get real to heal. You have to get real to heal. Get real. I like that. I don't know. I think we'll invite Phoenix back on if he wants to. What's up, Dan? Good to see you. Anna, the problem with Richard Allen is if guilty, he suddenly committed an unimaginable crime at age 45. The other major criminals have histories of deviant behavior, if not criminal records. That's just not true, Anna. He could be responsible for all kinds of sadistic shit that we don't know about. I'm telling you, there's something about this dude. He's just super quiet. I have a feeling he may be two people. And I don't know if there's a whole lot of people who know the other Richard Allen. What up, Humanimal? All right, guys, that's it. Thank you to the mods. Good to see you, Beach Fairy. Thanks for stopping by, Purdue. DB, I don't know if I've seen you before. Welcome in. Vic, what up? Regurgitating, unraveling talking points even after their collapse. Yeah, what happened to those folks? I went looking for the channel. It's still there, but it's like it's taken down or something. Thank you, Miranda, Beach Fairy, CJ, all of you guys. I'm out of here. Have a great day. And don't forget, we got a Sleuth Crew check-in later today. Got a lot to go over with you. And we rescheduled the members meeting for tomorrow. So make sure you guys go hit the bell icon for all of those. And I'll see you soon. Peace.